Hello, Eleanor Beaton here, and welcome back to another episode of the Woman-Owned Podcast. And in today's show, I want to lay out what I think every woman operator should be thinking about very seriously right now, and which I think too few women operators are thinking about seriously enough. And it is pricing power. Not how much you charge, although that's a part of it. Not what your competitors are charging, although that's a part of it. Not what you think your market can bear, although that's certainly a part of it. I'm talking about pricing power and why your pricing power as a woman-led business is one of the most significant sources of leverage that you have to sleep well through the night, to hire the caliber of talent that you actually need to take your business where you need it to go. It is the thing that is going to allow you to withstand uncertainty and fluctuations in the market, invest in the kind of technology upgrades that are truly going to be game changers for your business. Like, it all comes down to pricing power. You know, I've been thinking about this because we just wrapped up a 6-part series called Capital is a Verb. And this was a landmark series in which we really took a deep dive into one of the most underexplored topics in women-led businesses, which is capital. And when you really talk to the big thinkers on entrepreneurship and business, the people who are deploying billions of dollars into companies, the people who are in charge of venture capital, who are in charge of private equity, who are thinking about how businesses are valued and how businesses grow. Yes, they're talking about operational stuff, but it all comes down to the fact that it takes money to make money. They are all thinking about capital, how you raise it, how you manufacture it, how you create it, how you deploy it through your business and then get more. So it's kind of this idea, you know, they're looking at capital as the source. And what's interesting to me is so often as women entrepreneurs, we're thinking about everything but capital, which doesn't make us wrong. What I'm saying is it's an important kind of so-called frequency that I think we need to be paying a lot more attention to. But back to pricing power. What does cash or capital actually give you? When you have more than enough cash and capital, what does it give you? It represents, for many of us as women founders, it represents safety and protection. It represents options. It represents freedom and sovereignty, right? And it also represents growth. When you have capital, you're safe, you're protected. And so now you can really focus on growth without feeling like you're constantly having to cover your back. You have options. Now you're able to make the kind of high caliber hires that you need. You know, everybody knows that they should be hiring, you know, people who are smarter than them. Not many entrepreneurs can actually afford to do that. Let's be honest. Capital also means freedom and sovereignty, right? It means that you have the freedom and the sovereignty to be able to say no to a client that you disagree with, that you have the freedom and sovereignty to be able to take the vacation, to be able to show up for your family, that you have the ability to do that because the capital is there and you don't have to make these trade-offs and choices all the time. We, in the Jewel Capital framework, we say that zero is having 2 to 3 months of operating expenses banked. And I will tell you that the more, you know, when you talk to women operators who have 6 months of operating reserves in the bank or a year of operating reserves in the bank, they are different people. Their level of confidence, the conviction with which they talk about things, it's just kind of next level. So capital is really, really important. You know, I was talking to an operator today who was talking about rebuilding her war chest. So she had a 7-figure war chest and she just made an investment in something and now she's rebuilding it back up. But with that war chest, she really feels a tremendous amount of freedom, a tremendous amount of creativity. It's just a phenomenal feeling. And you can tell when you're dealing with entrepreneurs who have that, right? It's a fantastic feeling. So I'm sure the question that you have is great. Yes, but how do I get that? Well, I want to talk about that. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're around conversations like women need more access to capital. people need to invest in women-led businesses. Yes, all of that is true. And that's an issue that we at Safi are working on at the ecosystem level to address barriers to ensure that funders, people who control the money, are more willing to deploy it to women-led businesses. But that's not what I want to talk about here. What I want to talk about is how the consultant or the small business owner, maybe you have a team of 3 or 4 people and you're still doing everything yourself. And at the end of the month, you just never feel like you're getting ahead enough that justifies the level of effort that you're putting into the work that you're doing. That's who I'm talking to. And for you, pricing power is the most important and significant source of leverage that you have. And many women-led businesses are not only not being strategic about your pricing, you are underpricing, and you are robbing the business of the opportunity of the capital that it needs to grow, and you're robbing yourself of the options to be able to grow the business and sleep better at night. You know, in the last kind of 6 months, we've been doing a lot of work with the operators in our ecosystem around pricing. One of the reasons is because I'm very concerned with what's happening around inflation. So if you have not raised your prices, you are actively charging less, right? If you haven't raised your prices in the last 12 months, you're charging less than you were charging last year, just period. Inflation is a growing concern around North America, Europe, Australia. Like, inflationary pressures are real. And any woman operator should be taking this into consideration. And entrepreneurs and operators are very well positioned to deal with inflation because you have pricing power, but a lot of you aren't using it. So we've been doing a lot of work with our operators around pricing power. And what does that mean? It means, first of all, actually understanding how much does it cost you to deliver the thing that you deliver. So we do quite a bit of work with folks to help them even understand, like, this thing that you're delivering, how much does it actually cost you to deliver it? And sometimes people find that they are barely making money. The reason they're barely making any money is because they are actually charging less than what it costs them to produce. Cost of goods sold is one core thing. The next thing that we're looking at is, what is the legitimate value of the thing that you are providing? What is the actual upside? And we spend an absolute inordinate amount of time with operators calculating the value of their service. Because what we hold, the standard we hold, is that for many sort of more sophisticated service-based businesses, there should be at minimum a 3x return on the investment. And so we want to really take a look. And when you start calculating what the actual return is on the thing that you're offering, many of you would be blown away, but that's math that many people are not doing. And that's one of the things that has you significantly underprice what you're doing. And when you don't understand both the cost of what it costs you, more people know this, and then the actual value. Some people will speak about it in this very sort of generic abundance mindset way. It's priceless. I'm like, give me one break, please. Buyers and decision makers, whether you're B2B or B2C, are not buying the "it's priceless." I think MasterCard had that slogan. It's done. It's dead. You need to come back with a lot more conviction, clarity, and actual sensible math to show and demonstrate the true ROI of what you're offering. And this is what allows for pricing defense. It allows the defensibility of your pricing. People say you don't have to explain your pricing. No, but it does need to be rooted in something logical. And then also positioning. And when we really take a look at the women-led businesses who are generating revenue, building very strong profit, and building enterprise value, a big part of their pricing power is also coming from their positioning. They know they're going for higher altitude buyers. They know exactly who they're well positioned to serve. They develop deep domain expertise in that area. They add tremendous value, which they have calculated. And they are able to calculate what their target margins are because they know how much it costs them to produce that thing. Now you go from a CEO who's just sort of randomly guessing what your pricing should be to a CEO who has true pricing power. And when you have true pricing power, now you're able to run a profitable business. Now you're able to have that capital to hire better people, to actually build a nest egg, to start to put together the kind of strategic capital that could see you buy out, a strategic business to help you grow the overall value and earning power of your own business. And a lot of it is going to come down to pricing power. And I think this is especially important for women-led businesses because a lot of you are running businesses that are not quote unquote eligible for external capital. So you're not just going to get investors to come and bring you cash to run your business or to make a growth investment. Why? Well, because a lot of capital goes to extremely high growth industries, sort of the venture capital thing, right? Where there's a tremendous upside. That's kind of the whole model. For many women-led businesses, we're starting businesses that aren't investable in that way. By the way, we can still get access to capital in different formats, but our own pricing power is going to be the number one source of capital we have. So that's what I have for you. It is pricing power. This is a topic I think all women should be thinking about seriously. I want you to be thinking about your pricing power. If you want to kind of improve your pricing power, certainly we're going to take a look at your pipeline, right? We're going to take a look at that front end of how you are generating that opportunity in the first place. And if you want to have sort of an independent structural read on that part of your pipeline, I suggest you take our interactive self-diagnostic. It's called the Sales Architecture Diagnostic. Just go to safimedia.co/sales. Take that interactive diagnostic. It's going to help you start to see the front end of building pricing power, which is everything about your pipeline and your prospects. All right. Thank you so much for being here. If you found value in this episode, definitely share it with an operator you think deserves this kind of sophisticated conversation. And I will see you next week on the Woman Owned podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into the episode. If you found value in what I shared, please go ahead and like this video, give it a thumbs up, and leave me a review or leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next week.